Have you ever wondered what the internet was like for programmers before you could just Google a solution to your bug? It wasn't a pretty sight. Imagine this. It's the mid-2000s. You're deep into a coding project. And suddenly your application crashes. A single, cryptic error message stares back at you from the screen. What do? Today, the answer is second nature, a muscle memory for developers worldwide. But back then, you were about to descend into a digital labyrinth of frustration. You'd dive into ancient, clunky forums with interfaces that looked like they were designed in 1998. You'd spend hours, sometimes days, scrolling through endless threads filled with half-baked answers, condescending remarks, and arguments that had nothing to do with your problem. It was a chaotic wilderness of unverified information and toxic comment sections. Even worse, some of the most promising sources, like the notorious Experts Exchange, would tease you with a solution, only to hide the actual answer behind a paywall. Think about that for a second. You're stuck, your deadline is looming, and a website is demanding you pay money just to fix what might be a simple typo in your code. It was a system that punished curiosity and exploited desperation. This digital dark age wasn't just inefficient, it was soul-crushing. It made programming feel less like a creative act of building and more like a solitary battle against a million tiny, infuriating obstacles. The very act of seeking help was a monumental task, and the collective knowledge of the programming world was scattered, locked away, or buried under layers of digital noise. Then, two developers, Jeff Atwood and Joel Spolsky, decided they had seen enough. They weren't just programmers. They were influential bloggers who had felt this pain firsthand and had a public platform to voice their frustrations. They shared a radical, almost revolutionary belief for the time that programming knowledge should be a public good. It should be free, easily searchable, and built collaboratively by the very people who were in the trenches writing code every single day. They envisioned a world where a developer's first instinct wouldn't be to despair, but to ask. So in 2008, they channeled their shared frustration into creation and launched a completely new kind of platform, Stack Overflow. This wasn't just another forum designed to replace the old broken ones. It was a fundamental rethinking of how knowledge should be shared and organized online. Stack Overflow introduced a brilliant, almost addictive layer of gamification to the process of learning. Suddenly, helping others wasn't just a good deed. It was a game you could win. When you provided a high-quality answer, you earned reputation points. You could collect shiny badges for achieving certain milestones, like your first upvoted answer, or asking a well-received question. As your reputation grew, you unlocked new privileges on the site, like the ability to edit other people's posts or help moderate the community. It was like a version of Reddit, but specifically for coders, where your karma wasn't just for show, was a direct measure of your expertise and your contributions to the community. This system transformed the tedious act of documentation into a competitive, yet collaborative sport. But what was the secret sauce that made Stack Overflow so profoundly different and wildly successful? It was a combination of ruthless efficiency and community-driven quality control. First, there was an unwritten, yet strictly enforced rule: no fluff, no hello, no thanks in advance, no small talk. You asked a direct question, and you got a direct answer. This focus on utility made the site incredibly efficient. The second key was its architecture for permanence. Every single question and every single answer was meticulously indexed and made searchable forever. This wasn't a transient conversation in a chat room. It was the creation of a massive, living library of code solutions, growing and refining itself with every new contribution. Its repository became a digital brain for the entire programming community. But perhaps the most brilliant and controversial ingredient was that the community policed itself. The voting system was the ultimate arbiter of quality. If you posted a brilliant, elegant solution, it would be upvoted to the top, immortalized as the correct answer. If your answer was lazy, incorrect, or unhelpful, it would be downvoted into oblivion, a clear signal to others to ignore it. This democratic and sometimes brutal meritocracy ensured that the best information always rose to the surface. It was a self-correcting system that harnessed the collective intelligence of millions to filter out the noise. The result was nothing short of an explosion. Stack Overflow didn't just grow. It became an indispensable part of the developer toolkit almost overnight. Within months, it was the default destination for anyone with a programming problem. The verb to Google a problem was quickly replaced in the developer lexicon. You didn't Google your bug, you Stack Overflowed it. This subtle shift in language signified a monumental change in behavior. The site became a reflex, an extension of the developer's own mind. Its success was so profound that the model was expanded into the Stack Exchange network, a collection of Q&A sites covering a dizzying array of topics from mathematics and physics to cooking, photography, and even Japanese language. Anything you could have a question about, there was a Stack Exchange site for it. But this hypergrowth wasn't without its challenges. As the community grew, so did the friction. Veteran users who had built the site's reputation through their high standards became increasingly strict, sometimes seen as unwelcoming gatekeepers. Newcomers often felt intimidated. Their questions quickly closed as duplicates or downvoted for not meeting the community's rigorous standards. A tension began to brew between the organic, sometimes chaotic community and the company trying to manage it. Eventually, the founders, Jeff Atwood and Joel Spolsky, stepped away, and Stack Overflow transitioned from a community-led project into a more corporate entity. But by then, its legacy was already cemented. It had fundamentally rewired how a generation of developers learned, worked, and solved problems. Then, just as Stack Overflow seemed like an unshakable titan of the developer world, a new technological tsunami appeared on the horizon. Generative AI. By 2022, tools like GitHub, Copilot, and, most notably, OpenAI's ChatGPT began to emerge. These large language models could understand and generate human-like text, including code. Suddenly, you could ask a question in plain English and get a working code snippet in seconds, faster than any human could possibly type. For the first time in over a decade, developers had a viable, and in many cases, a more convenient, alternative to Stack Overflow. The impact was immediate and dramatic. Traffic to the site reportedly plummeted. The once bustling hub of developer activity started to feel a little quieter. The platform that was built on human-to-human interaction was now competing with an infinitely patient, lightning-fast AI Stack Overflow. Once the ultimate source of programming truth suddenly began to look like a relic from a bygone era. And yet behind the scenes, a different story was unfolding. In 2021, just before the AI boom went mainstream, the company was acquired for a staggering $1.8 billion by Process, one of the largest technology investors in the world. This massive valuation suggested that someone saw a future for Stack Overflow that went beyond just being a queue and a website. Today, that future is becoming clear. Stack Overflow is undergoing a radical reinvention, not by competing with AI, but by partnering with it. The company has announced collaborations with giants like Google and OpenAI. The very data that made Stack Overflow invaluable to humans, its massive high quality, structured database of questions and answers, is now being used to train the next generation of coding AIs. The platform's new mission represents a fascinating full-circle moment. It is creating a symbiotic relationship between human and machine intelligence. The new paradigm is clear. AI learns from the vast repository of human knowledge curated on Stack Overflow. In turn, humans learn from and are assisted by the AI that has been trained on their collective wisdom. It's a feedback loop where each side makes the other smarter. The platform that once saved programmers from the chaos of the early internet is now positioning itself to help guide the future of programming in the age of AI. It's not just about providing answers anymore. It's about providing the foundational data that powers the tools that will define how we build software for decades to come. The platform that was built on the idea of a community helping itself might just be instrumental in saving programming once again. It's time from being overwhelmed by the very technology it helped to create. When you peel back the layers, the story of Stack Overflow isn't really just about code, servers, or programming languages. It's a deeply human story about community, psychology, and the incredible power that is unleashed when you design a system to solve a real, painful problem. It teaches us a profound lesson about motivation and collaboration. By creating a platform that rewarded curiosity, celebrated generosity, and gamified the act of sharing knowledge, Jeff Atwood and Joel Spolsky didn't just build a successful website, sparked a revolution in how knowledge is valued and shared on the internet. They built a culture. They prove that when you give people the right tools and the right incentives, they will move mountains for you, one upvoted answer at a time.